Well, joining us now, direct from Ireland, is former White House Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor of Bondi Partners, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, thanks so much for joining us to talk about this amazing week in Chicago with the Democrat National Convention. Something that's really struck me watching the whole way they've positioned Kamala Harris over the past week is she's a sitting vice president with Air Force Two and all the advantages of office, and yet they're positioning her as the underdog. And in this sense, Donald Trump kind of looks more presidential at this point, but they seem to be trying to give Harris the advantages of being a challenger. What's your read on that?
That so far it's working. They are trying very hard to make it look like she is the new kid on the block. They're trying very hard to distance her from Joe Biden, and they're trying to take advantage of the fact, James, as you know, unfortunately, sadly, most Americans at any particular time don't know who the vice president is. So she's got this sort of wonderful middle ground where she can look like she's doing the job but not taking any responsibility for doing the job. She has all the trappings of the job, the airplane, for example, the Secret Service detail, etc., but she doesn't have any responsibilities. And so far, she's been threading that needle quite well.
Yeah, and Mick, I want to talk a bit about the speech that she just gave in Chicago. I mean, it was really a very big change for somebody who's been watching Kamala Harris do word salads, and talk about coconut trees for years. This was a very polished, professional speech, but it also seemed to be like a repudiation of so many policy positions that we have associated with her and the Democrats and the hard left of the Democrat Party, which has been in ascendant recently, including on Israel. And just have a listen to this.
I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7.
Now, reading between the lines there, Mick, it seems like that would rule out any kind of arms embargo, and saying that Israel has a right to defend itself. That seems like that's going to upset some people on the left wing of the party. What do you reckon?
It is. She's trying very hard to distance herself from the Biden campaign, from the Biden administration. Keep in mind, about 70% of this country at any one time thinks the country right now is on the wrong track. So it's sort of hard for her to say, I'm going to continue to do what Joe Biden did. She had to sound different. So that was a lot more aggressive, I think, than you've heard her speak in the past. I think they've made the decision that the far left is now with them, that they will vote for Kamala Harris, regardless of what she says about Israel, and that she's now reaching out to the middle. Keep in mind, your word salad point is very well made. It's still accurate. Last night, as you would expect, was entirely teleprompted. It was entirely scripted. That's not at all unusual for a convention speech. She's actually quite good at those and has been in the past. When you've seen all these examples in the previous weeks and months and years of her just absolutely butchering the English language, that has been an extemporaneous speaking, something she still has not done. She's taken a couple questions now, but not very many. Of course, she's never done a presidential debate. It's unclear if they're going to do that. We might talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, you would expect a teleprompter speech to be a lot more polished than the extemporaneous stuff that she seems to be really bad at, and they seem to be insulating her from. Clearly, what does all this mean to put together? They are running a general election trying to reach out to the few undecided voters in the center, and they've sort of counted on the left now solidly supporting her in the election in November.
Yeah, and Mick, this is a big question, of course. You and I, and probably most people watching this here, are pretty engaged with politics. They know what's going on. But this idea that, she's been in the office of vice president, down the hall from the Oval Office for 3.5 years, and then saying she's going to fix on day one all the problems that have been created over the last 3.5, 4 years, there seems to be a fundamental contradiction, especially the way she's trying to avoid actually answering that by talking to the press. Can she get away with this?
She can, for the most part, because the media in this country is predominantly left-centric. So they will sort of give her this honeymoon period. They've given her a honeymoon period. They're sort of paying lip service to this idea of, wouldn't it be nice if she would take a couple of questions? But face it, the Washington Post, the New York Times, all of the major networks want Donald Trump to lose. So they're going to do everything they can to help Kamala Harris win. Now, you're issue about day one is a really good one. You've heard Donald Trump talk about this before, that she's been in office 3.5 years already. She's talking about on day one, I'm going to do this and that. And Trump has been trying to pound the message. Day one for her was 3.5 years ago. He's going to try to tie her to the Biden failures. It's probably his best card to play right now in the campaign. You'll be hearing more and more of that because she is not the new kid on the block. She has been in that White House for 3.5 years.
Yeah, and Mick, I mean, just in terms of fora where he can play that card, you mentioned the debate earlier, and now it seems like there's a lot of confusion about even whether or not this is happening. Now, the left and the Democrats had accused Donald Trump of chickening out of the debate, but it kind of feels like they're the ones now who are running away from this.
Yeah, there's no reason for her to debate. I've said it before. I've said it for the last couple of weeks. Ever since this honeymoon, since they anointed her, and again, they did anoint her. She wasn't elected for this position. The party leadership essentially said Biden is out and Kamala Harris is in. She has talked about doing debates, but I've always said that she's not going to do them. Why? Because she's winning. The message that they are delivering right now, not the message, the package that they are offering right now to voters, which is a bright, shiny, new sort of thing, and I guess an American kind of way. She's not new, but she is working, and she's surging in the polls. When that's happening, James, you and I both know you don't debate. Debates only hurt you. You can't win an election in a debate, but you can lose one, as Joe Biden proved a month and a half ago. So I see all of this sort of dancing around whether or not there's going to be a debate. My guess is there won't be any. And even if we do have some, it will be one, and it will be very, very short. The Democrats see nothing but downside to putting Kamala Harris on a dais next to Donald Trump, so I do not expect it to happen.
It's just incredible to me, Mick. I mean, they keep talking about our democracy and the threats to democracy, and yet they don't seem to want to participate in all the things that go along with democracy. Mick Mulvaney, we're going to have to leave it there. Enjoy Ireland.